As a facilitator, we're trained to create these beautifully stitched gatherings. But then COVID hit, and many of the tools that we have to stitch, a table to gather around, doorways to walk through, side conversations, have been removed. And so as a facilitator, I'm now trying to figure out how do we create meaningful connection despite these new obstacles. My name is Priya Parker. I'm a group conflict resolution facilitator, which basically means I help groups have complicated conversations better. Technology's always been present at our gatherings, even pre-internet. Think of a camera at a family reunion or the slideshow. And then cell phones enter the picture, and there is this huge threat to connection because we're distracted by our cell phones. But of course, there are ways that technology can absolutely enhance our gatherings, which in this moment is particularly important since now so many of our gatherings are happening online. We have moments of connection constantly, but they're often on autopilot. We don't actually stop and pause to ask, why am I actually bringing this group of people together? What is our actual need? And how might I design the experience or this coming together to match that need? These are the kind of questions I ask in my line of work. And now during the pandemic, these questions have become even more complicated. The beginning of a gathering, how you open, how people enter, is incredibly important to the success of the gathering. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
So in a traditional in-person gathering, most people enter through a doorway, like a literal doorway. And it's not just a physical entryway, it's a psychological one. It allows you to begin to enter into an experience. And so one of the elements that I've been working on is how do you create the psychological entryway when people's doorways are now pushing a red button to enter a room. I'm experimenting with things like opening slides. When people enter a room, whether in person or online, you need to orient them. And so a slide can do something that allows them to just settle for a bit. And it says something like, we're so happy to have you here. You'll notice you're currently on mute. We'll unmute you shortly. Please turn your cameras on. Your presence is a gift. It gives people a beat. It gives them a second to enter the room. It gives them a second to see who's there. I'll often play an opening song just on the background. Then I'll do some kind of reimagined roll call. So studies show that within the first 5% of a gathering or an experience, if a group spends time where everybody has a moment to say something, to say their name, to say anything, they're more likely to speak up later. It can be as simple as having people show their morning coffee mug. Another thing that's really important is the use of the mute button. You want to block out some of the distractions so that people can focus. But if mute is on the entire time, it's an incredibly sterile environment. So one of the things I've been experimenting with is what I call silent but unmuted. So we invite people to take their mute button off and actually listen to each other. The laughter, jokes, side comments, asides. As a facilitator, I know those are the enzymes of group life. That's what actually allows a conversation to catch. If I make a joke and I can't hear anyone laughing, right, I'm not gonna then continue to expose myself in that way. So we wanna hear your breath. We wanna hear your laugh. You might be hearing a lot of background noise in this video. That is in part because we are outside in a park and there's a lot of life happening behind me. Just like there's a lot of life happening behind every other person in every meeting in your world. If there's one tip I'd have you practice in your next meeting, ask your group to answer one question so that you start getting to see the life that's actually in the room. Depending on the group, it could be, who was the last person you had a meaningful conversation with? Or who is a colleague that did something extraordinary? Or what is something you found yourself doing this past week that you had never imagined because of the pandemic? What I most want people to know is that you can do this too. You don't need to be a conflict resolution expert to actually host a good Zoom meeting. I get inspiration every day from seeing people hacking technology together and very creative ways people are starting to think about this virtual connection in this moment that I think will also go into the future.